Hey, hello. Welcome to another episode of Spicy EDU, the show where we talk about all things that are hot in education. My name is Tyler Trammell,
And my name is Jirka Cleveland.
and we are digital learning specialists with Fort Worth ISD. Today, we have an awesome show lined up. We have an amazing guest. I really can't even, I have like a whole paragraph of all his credentials. I'm actually going to let him
Don't
introduce.
do it. Don't read all that.
Okay, you know what? Well, can you give us a little background? I'm turning it over. Introduce yourself, my man.
Sure. My name is Dee Lanier. I like to let people know I am a designer of equitable experiences. D, get it? All right, so easy enough. Former high school teacher, technology integration specialist, written a couple books, have a design thinking activity. I'm a Samsung education coach, and most importantly, I'm happy to be here with you all.
Oh, that is amazing.
That is awesome. Yeah, my list will be like not that
I
long.
know. I think a little
Yes.
bit smaller because
Cool.
it's like
Yes. And the reason we're having D on here is if you haven't caught on, he is going to be our keynote speaker this Saturday, October what?
19th.
19th at ODY at High School. It's going to be awesome. We kind of overdid it, but we've got all, even FWTC water, Fort Worth Technology Conference. So, all right. Here we are with D. D, before we start diving in, can you tell us a little bit about your educational journey, how you got where you started, and how you got to where you're at? We're excited to hear.
Whew. It's a journey. It is definitely a journey. I started as a lateral entry high school business teacher. And I tell people all the time, I had no business teaching business. My background is in sociology. I definitely did lots of undergrad and graduate focused work in education, but being directly in the classroom was not my original goal. I started out just volunteering at a high school, and the next thing you know it, I was being offered a job. They thought that I was looking for work, I think. I wasn't. I was looking for an outlet. But then that turned into a career. And next thing you know it, I became support in technology and got certifications. And then that led to really qualification for a different kind of job and a different school and help them in transitioning over to Google. And my main role was really in tech support, in instructional technology support. But I was also still teaching, taught middle school. Then I took somewhat of a hiatus from the classroom to lead a nonprofit. All the while, I was still doing professional development. By this point, I was starting to travel and do professional development, something that I was like unlocking something I didn't know that I really loved. And then I realized that I love my students. I love the impact of directly teaching students, but I also started to recognize how much I really, really enjoyed adult education. Really, really enjoyed being able to teach teachers and seeing teachers who were incredibly passionate and masterful at their craft, and me being able to empower them to do what they do even better. And so that became really my felt calling, if you will. So even when I went back into the classroom a couple of years after that, my main job and my main role and really my main hope was to continue to support teachers in what they do and really just bringing more kind of fun and experimentation in a setting that even for me as a student I found pretty dull, monotonous, predictable. So if we can take away the predictability, amp up the creativity, then that was my aim. Still is.
I think we're going to go ahead and get started. In the past on these shows that we've done peppers, but this year we wanted to do the exact same. So D, you have the same sauces as us. It is called the challenge. It comes with four different ones. My favorite are the titles. You just got regular original. Then we have Tabanero extra hot, and that's just number two. Then we have Tabanero 3X's, and then my all-time favorite name, Dragon's Breath. So we are going to be dipping our chicken into the sauces, eating it, and then putting D on the spot. So this is going to
There
be
it
awesome.
is.
Okay. All right, you
Looking forward
ready?
to it. All right, I'm changing my office lights
Yeah.
to red.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here we go. So we're gonna dip. We're kind of stretched thin as far as everyone getting ready for this conference. So our I don't even know what you would call it. Our graphics department's kind of low key. So Jerica's going to actually be holding up just how hot each one is based on the scale they sent us. So
Okay.
this first one,
All
go ahead
right.
and show us. We got one pepper.
One pepper.
All right, so here we
All
go.
right. We're gonna
Ready?
see. We're gonna see how one pepperish this really is. And
Yeah.
are we biting at the same time? We going in?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad.
That's the first one, though.
I know. Well, I'm a little hungry. Yeah.
Good. Ooh.
That's not bad.
Nope. I guess I'm a wuss. Holy cow. All right, first question. Are you ready?
Let's go.
I really enjoy your podcast. And one of the popular phrases that you say on your podcast is, well, tell us this. Maybe we can. No, here we go. We're not late talking about these issues. You just may be late in hearing it. Can you shed light on where that phrase came from? And also, what is a particular issue that you've been talking about for a while, but is just now starting to catch on?
Got it. Got it. Well, okay. So there's actually an Easter egg in that comment. And if you look at our podcast, Ken Shelton and I, if you look at our podcast and read the titles of every single episode, they start off with a C, a P, and a T.
Oh.
So that's an Easter egg. And if you don't know what CPT means, look it up, or we'll have a personal conversation together at the conference. And in that, we're also insinuating or just making it clear, you may just be late hearing us having these conversations, but we've been having these conversations and we will continue to have these conversations. But if we choose to publish what we are already talking about later, that had nothing to do with you. That was our intention, to have those dialogues internal first. And so another spoiler, if you happen to have our book, The Promises and Perils of AI in Education, and if you look at the subtitles of every chapter, you will see a C and a P and a T. All right, so that's very intentional. And even the topic of AI. So that would probably be the easiest one to just bring into the conversation. November 2022, and it seemed by December of 2022, there were books already being published on generative AI and what it means for education and blah, blah, blah. And we took our time, and that was intentional. We took our time to dialogue. We then decided to be very, very slow to test some of our opinions based on research and what we saw come about. And a full year later, when we did finally publish, we found that the very things that we had spoken about months and months and months before were still very much relevant. And so we may have been late in publishing our book, but our topics were still very much real and relevant and right on time.
Okay. Awesome. Right on. Now I'm gonna go back and look it up. Like,
I know.
I'm gonna find one, not CPT, but I bet he's got them all. Yeah. All right, next one, Jerica. How hot is it? Show us the pepper scale. Here we go. Yeah.
Peppers.
2 peppers. Okay, 2 peppers. And I think this is going to be your question, Jerica. We'll be here. And but we gotta eat first.
We gotta eat first. Are y'all ready? So this is for our second sauce.
It says it's extra hot.
Yeah.
And it's only the second spice. I like the flavor of this one. Ooh, got some heat. We got some heat, ladies and gentlemen. We got some heat.
Oh, yeah, that gets you in the back.
That's pretty good. It gives me like Louisiana hot sauce feel.
It kind of does, yeah. A little more flavor, yeah.
Yeah, I like the flavor of this one.
Yeah. Okay. You want to ask you a question?
Okay, so you're working with AI education, and how do you balance this intense, like your focus on equality or equity with just basically, how do you manage your own keeping up with yourself, like your own well-being or your mental health? How do you handle all that with your hectic schedule?
Oh gosh, I don't. No. um, well, I have my kids, I have my family, so they keep me grounded. Um, and I will say that, even thinking about AI and its implications on education, I'm not just thinking about out there. I am regularly, actively, I would even tell a story about how immediate some of the conversations in my own home have been around ethical use of AI. Um, and it's a balancing act, right? So the same ways you think about how the use of AI and the questions around it aren't cut and dry. Similarly, self-care and things of that nature is not just simple or easy. It requires thoughtfulness, intentionality. Um, so I would say that that's it. And Tyler brought up coffee earlier. That's one of my ways of self-care. that's and even me mentioning when I'll be in the Fort Worth area, I find local coffee shops. Like I try and make good out of every experience. That's really the goal, is try and find joy in experiences. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing this weekend as well.
How are you enjoying this so far?
Oh, I'm actually loving this.
Yeah.
That last hot sauce was very tasty. And
Yeah.
I'm like asking myself, which of these will I eventually buy a big bottle of and maybe become a new fan of?
Oh, you ready for the next one? Show us what our temp is.
So right now we're going about 8 peppers.
Okay. Now I'm gonna lay down a challenge. I say we'd like really get in it, like
Okay,
just
so like we
cover.
do like a
Yeah.
swirl. So
Yes.
All
this is
right. That's
our
Yeah. There
too
we
hot
go.
for the hot tub. Here we go.
All right. So we're gonna do this a little different. We are gonna eat it, Dee, but then you're going to kind of describe what you're going through, and then I'll ask my question.
Oh man. All right.
All right, here we
Yes.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm lathering this one up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This one, a little bit of heat
Mhm.
hit the tongue immediately, whereas the other one was a little bit of delay. Um, I would say this one tastes a little bit more peppery in comparison to the other one, tasted more tangy. And as I'm talking, a little bit caught the back of my throat. So I'm trying not to choke too hard, but not bad actually.
Yeah.
I will say I like the flavor of the previous one more, but I like the heat level of this one. I could see using this in like a Cajun dish.
Am I just a wuss? Holy cow.
What was you
I'm pretty hot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. About to drink my water here. Okay. So here we go.
Let's go.
You have mentioned the Am I Right framework, which I'm a huge fan of for self-reflection on biases. How can educators practically implement this framework in their daily work, especially when working decisions that affect students?
Excellent. Man, I love this question. I'll say, so the Am I Right framework is really just a way to self-reflect on whether or not you are being biased in a situation. All right. So oftentimes say, people will say, and you need to check for the bias, in talking about AI output. Or you may have heard, and you need to check your bias, right? And those are just platitudes if they're not defined as to what bias is and then how you can check for it, right? So that little thinking is a way to just go down the line and say, am I avoiding objective facts, right? The A, and then I forget what the M is all of a sudden. um, Goodness, maybe it's the heat. I'll blame it on the heat. Um, but I know it'll just come to me and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I forgot the very thing that I've also spoken on many times. But am I, misinterpreting? There it was. I remember, but am I misinterpreting information? Right? Am I intentionally ignoring information that may be counter to what I truly believe or what I already believe? Am I remembering only key facts or only things that support what I already believe? Right? Um, am I right? And so that is a way to just go through a mental checklist and ask yourself, is this just a situation where I am looking for every angle just to self validate? Or am I being honest with the situation? And if there are new facts that come to my attention, am I willing to explore them? Am I willing to investigate the validity behind something? Am I willing to have my mind changed? Right. So that sort of thinking, I know that it's sort of a pause for myself in many ways. When there's various things that I have bias towards. And that's, I think, also something that we should all just acknowledge. We're all biased in some way, shape, or form, right? Us eating these hot wings or your nuggets, right?
Yeah.
We may have a bias towards the flavor profile of some of these. You may have a bias towards what kind of coffee you drink, but then to consider when bias affects others and who could be harmed by our bias. How are we harming ourselves? How are we maybe even preventing ourselves from experiencing something better because we just want to stay stuck in what we currently believe, right? Expanding our thinking is really about expanding our empathy. And so that's what, quote, checking our bias is. And I point out regularly, you can never identify bias in anything external to yourself if you're not willing to do the work to understand what bias is and how you already process your own biases. And so with that, you can then begin to apply what are the biases potentially in AI output, for instance.
Man, I always think of the phrase, I always think of like at church, you always feel like the pastor was talking to me.
I know.
You were specifically talking to me. I'm looking forward to Saturday. I would love to have a one-on-one talk about some of
Especially with those biases. I feel like we're all biased. We have something that we're biased about.
And I like that you mentioned the willingness to seek things outside of your own bias. I like that a lot. That's what I struggle with. I'll be completely honest. Okay. I got another question that's going to kind of build off of that, but I say we eat another wing. What do you say? Show us.
Are
Show
you
us.
ready?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one more time.
It's this one, right? It's dragon breath?
Yeah,
Yes.
dragon's breath. That's how many peppers. Yeah.
Like
Dragon's
You had to put the peppers sideways to get
Sideways.
them all on. So yes. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay. All right. And I think this question kind of builds into it. Look, see.
Oh, this one was like really thick. Like you could barely pour it out.
I know.
Okay, so same deal. We're gonna dip and eat,
said
and you talk deep. Tell us.
All right.
Oh man.
Well, speaking of bias, I because I could self-serve, I gave myself all flats. So know that I'm also biased towards all flats. Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
no.
smell a little bit of. Okay, I smell the heat. I'm looking at y'all going like I gotta eat this first.
Yeah, I
gotta eat and then talk.
I got a tear in my eye.
Yeah.
Woo. Okay.
Props to Dee. Not drinking
Okay.
water. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
The concept of getting proximate to the pain was powerful. How can educators who may not share the same background as their students authentically connect with and understand their challenges?
Man, there's not an easy answer to that question.
I started saying you'd be a billionaire if you had the right answer.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, there just isn't. There is not an easy answer. But I think the first thing is acknowledging your distance in proximity, right? And how frequently do teachers do that? There's a stat that I think has to be tested in certain situations, but by and large, in most so-called urban districts, wow, okay, it's still on my tongue. It's
I was
still
like, I think
there,
I'm
like it's
crying.
lingering.
I was like, I think I'm crying.
Yeah, that
It's
one
lingering.
really got me.
Woo. All right,
Pressure.
I'm resisting. I'm not getting that water, but man,
Oh, you're
it's
stronger
still
than us, man.
Yeah.
it's still lingering. All right. Good for the sinuses. I'll say that, Mark.
Yeah.
That part.
I can breathe.
All right. So, all right. I tried to talk, and then a little bit of the hot saliva came back on me. But the stat is, generally speaking, nationwide, and most so-called urban districts, the majority of students, like 80% of the students in public schools, are Black and brown kids. 80% of the teachers do not reflect the same demographic. So there's a distance right there, right? And I think teachers need to consider, not just if they struggle or if they grew up and struggle, but how is their struggles so much different than their students? Where do they live in comparison to their students, right? What is family dynamic in comparison to students? What's right generationally what is their parents' education, potentially their grandparents' education, and their stepping stones towards success in comparison to their students. And you may know nothing of those things, but then you're even just getting into what are language differences. And when I say language differences, I mean more than just ELL students. I mean dialectically, what are those differences, right? To know that one student may have mastered the art of code switching, and you may know nothing of it, right? How many things are demonized or vilified that are really just cultural differences, right? I'm wearing a hoodie right now. Why is it that a hoodie may be banned in a school setting? Whereas for me, this is apparel that makes me comfortable, as well as in certain instances safe in walking home. But if a teacher knows nothing of safety based on their attire, there's distance, there's dramatic difference. And so just acknowledging those differences, I think, helps in us having different perspectives. You brought up earlier, I said something that made you think that, pastors saying something, a message that's preaching to you. Well, I often think about missionaries, and missionaries go into a foreign country knowing that they know very little, right? How frequently do teachers consider, I'm walking into a different cultural experience, and so I must have humility, I must have curiosity, I must learn who these students are and what they value. And the differences may be dramatic, and that's okay if I respect and honor that difference, in comparison to everything I say and do is about making you conform to what is normative to my culture and what is standard to my expectations. So that's part of it.
What is it?
I know.
Oh, excellent.
Lanier for president.
Yeah.
I
got me mind off my tongue here. Ooh, excellent answer. Thank you, Dee.
That was a good one. I love that.
Yeah.
Got my vote.
Yes. Okay.
So
Woo.
Man.
Well, congratulations, Dee. You have survived the heat. I do have to say that was a huge jump from the third one to the fourth one. I'm a West Texas boy too, and we do
I
not.
just made a mistake. I was like, I like the flavor of that other one, right? But I
Yeah,
just had the
Yeah.
hottest one. I just had Dragon's Breath again. I just like
yeah,
did it to myself.
yeah. Dee, I quickly get the impression from Instagram podcast. I mean, everything that you've got going on. You are a very humble individual, but
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to not be so humble for a second and let our viewers know where they can find you and what you've got going on moving forward, man.
Oh goodness. Well, not too hard to find. I'll say this part. Well, number one, I am on the platform formerly known as Twitter at my name, Dee Lanier. I am on Instagram technically at Dee Lanier Coffee. For some reason, I was kicked off a couple years ago. Trust me, I don't understand why. I don't know what happened, but I was booted off of Instagram. And when I came back, I went, I'm gonna come back on and I'm gonna make everything coffee themed. And then yeah, sometimes I just find myself I'm not going to force that issue. So I am technically on that platform. I am on LinkedIn, and I do think this is still being humble. I hope. I used to teach my kids, my students, all the time to take control of their online identity, and to do so to see if you can do a Google search for yourself and find you, the real you, and nothing but good stuff about you. And because I taught my students how to do that, I've worked really hard to maintain that for myself. And so anybody comes up to me from high school, college, whatever, is like, man, I haven't been able to get in contact with you. I lost your number. I'm like, lies, all lies. I'm easy to find. If you just Google search my name, all lies. So intentionally able to be found fairly easily. And what are we working on now? So big thing right now is Ken and I are working on a companion guide to our best-selling book, The Promises and Perils of AI in Education. And it's another one of those CPT themed things in many ways. We had aimed to get it done a little bit back. We had the ambitious thought of having it ready at the beginning of the school year, and of course, life and travel and all that. So yeah, in between doing lots of just traveling and speaking and doing some coaching locally here in Charlotte, North Carolina, working on that companion guide. And I promise this time it really is really, really close.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Can't wait, man. But if you cannot wait until then, you can join us this Saturday, October 19th, for FWTC Fort Worth Technology Conference. We will be at Odie Wyatt High School, and
Right
Dee will
here.
be our keynote speaker as well as leading 2 workshop sessions. So if you see this, enjoy it, which I'm sure you did. Please come join us Saturday. Dee, we are so thankful. Thank you for joining us, and we
Thank
cannot
you.
wait to get you here in Texas on Saturday.
Looking
Yes.
forward to it. Let's find
Yeah.
some barbecue.
Right on. All right, man. Take care, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks. See y'all.
See ya. It ends.